built a really nice Twitter following. It's changed my life. I've only been tweeting for like a year and a half.
Yeah.
But again, I don't even take it like aggressive or fast. And I've grown a pretty large audience and built splitdesk.com all off the back of inbound Twitter. I never did any sales, had a salesman, outbound, anything. I always recommend people, like, if you have an option to sell your company, don't be bashful. Be super pragmatic.
Dylan, we are live with the One Network here. I'm super psyched for this, guys. We got Dylan Ander. He's the founder of Heatmap, a CRO expert, so to speak, and a very prolific entrepreneur. And I don't say that lightly, Dylan.
Thank
Just
you,
talking to you here, hearing about the different companies and everything. You definitely embody kind of the spirit of like what we're looking to do with the company and interview on the podcast as well, with the 8 companies and the whole transition. So I'm curious to hear, and I think the audience, about your whole story, how you got started in entrepreneurship in the first place, different companies one by one, and of course cover the CRO, classic topics as well. But for the early stage entrepreneur audience, Dylan, can you tell us how you got into business in the first place?
Yeah, happy to. Starts out as a, 13-year-old boy having his bar mitzvah in Long Island. And my parents saying, hey,
That's all good stories start.
As many do. And they're like, yeah, Dylan, so you're never getting money again from us. We'll give you half of college, but you got to go on your own. So I'm like, well, mom and dad, what the heck do I do? I was sort of like, okay, like I guess I'll babysit. And I put up a little flyer in 2 different places, and all of a sudden I had like 8 families text me like, oh my God, looking for an incredible babysitter. So I was going in, I was like, yes, like the going rate, like I'm 29 now, like going rate back then was $10 an hour for babysitting. Nice. My dad's like, Dylan, you're going to charge $30 an hour. I'm like, what do you mean? Why? He's like, because you're better than everyone else and you're going to make their life so much better. I was like, what do you mean? He's like, they're not paying for your like time. They're paying to go out and have a good time themselves and not worry about anything. So just tell them they're never going to have to worry if you're the one babysitting. Nice. And I was like, sweet. Okay. So I did it.
Service 101.
I did it. And then I figured out that like they were going out with the same families. I was like, hey, by the way, if you want, I can take care of both sets of kids. And then I eventually grew like a list of like 15 families in the neighborhood, call it early scarcity, but I would message all of them and literally the spots would get booked up of whenever I was available for that month. And they would literally bid against each other. So I kind of started to learn a lot of the business principles like from babysitting in high school. I was always a tennis coach. I played D1 tennis. So I coached in college. I started with the 4-year-olds, which is miserable, and got to train the actual kids and all that type of stuff. So yeah, when I got into college, I was 17. It was my sophomore year. I went to college a little early. So in my sophomore year, I started my first Shopify store. Someone else was in my little entrepreneurship club, meaning a table like this, and that was it at the whole school. At school. And he's like, dude, I just started this print on demand store and like, it's ripping money. I'm making like $1,000 of profit a day and I barely know how to do this stuff. I'm like, okay, sweet. Like shoot me the YouTube videos. I'll get it up and running like in a couple of days. I stayed up all night. I had my first profitable day on my second day of running a drop shipping store. We had the sloth store, and it was, we just did print on demand of like sloth themed stuff. And we just printed on like I'm lazy with sloths. And that was my first one. So I scaled that up to getting close to like, about, 8 figures a year. I brought on a CEO actually when I was only 19. So yeah, there was like a middle 30s CEO who's like, I can quadruple this. I will bet that I can quadruple this, with a certain profit margin. And I was like, sweet, drew up the contracts, had, Uncle Joe do all the, do all the contracts, made sure it was good, all the financials. I exited that before I graduated college, which was awesome. I made my own store as well, which was a different print on demand. And then another one that, in drop shipping, used to try a bunch of products. This beeswax wood polish. I always sent it to my mom. I was like, hey mom, because on Facebook, people don't know, but the average age right now is about 45, 46 years old on Facebook. On Instagram, it's 29. On TikTok, it's 21. Exactly. So I would never start a brand today that like is an e-com D2C, like focusing on Facebook meta ads, that is not to an older demographic. So I sent it over to my mom and my grandma saying, do you guys like these? And like I'd send them 20 at a time, and this wood polish worked. I built up, it's called Clean Green Store, and sold that one as well. That was when I was about 22. Then I tried to make a sports energy drink, like a Prime right now, but before it was like a cool thing. Put in 100,000 for my exit, 200,000, 300,000, eventually around $400,000. I just quit. I said, I can't do this anymore. Never got to market, burned a heck ton of money, post-tax money, just dumped it. And there was a really cool quote that Seth Godin, assuming you're a fan of the guy as well. There's a book, so I'm a huge reader. If you guys want to message me after, I'll give you like 30 book recs. I've got way too many. I'm not smart. I just read a lot.
Yeah.
So my big thing, Seth had a quote in a book called The Dip. It's like 80 pages, super fast to read. That winners know when to quit.
Yeah.
It's not that you lost or you're a loser because you're quitting. I cut it off. I should have cut it off at 100,000, but I cut it off at 400,000. I could have kept going, been $1 million, $2 million deep into it, but I decided not to. So that was another failed one. I had a marketing agency. It was really niche in SEO. This was when I was about like 23, 24. And at that point I made an agency, which like we had Geico, we had Redfin, we had Planet Fitness, like I was crushing SEO. I don't know, Google, if you're listening, but yeah, I did a little bit of gray hat SEO. Yeah, I was a master. If it doesn't work nowadays, and I probably shouldn't share this one, but I just feel like, why not? What's the highest domain authority website on the internet?
Probably Google.
You nailed it. How do you get hundreds of thousands of backlinks from Google?
You Google Business.
Google Docs,
Google
Google Sheets, Google Forms. So we literally, exactly, 100%. So I made an RSS feed on one website. If I literally added one URL to it, it would slowly drip out hundreds of thousands of these owned Google Docs and Google Sheets that I had as backlinks, so I could rank like anything immediately. Yeah. We had to burn and churn, but yeah, I've worked on every level, around 100,000 and 100 million in Facebook ads. In the crypto days, I launched Stellar Lumens, was one of the really early ones. It's when it was Lumens before it became Stellar, Neo, a lot of the top like 50 tokens. This was before on Facebook. You could take your pixel and move it from site to site. So I spent 20, 30, 40, $50 million all together. And I had the pool of ICO investors on my Facebook pixel that as an agency, I'm like, well, use my pixel, you'll make tons of money. And that's how I got these 50, 100K a month retainers from these giant ICOs. They were like 6-month engagements, but I could only do one at a time because I only had one pixel. So yeah, so I'm like, that's why they would pay extra big bucks. I'm like, hey, either the one like that like is you're competing with, or you, like one of you two are going to pay for it, and I already have $50 million of Facebook spend to conversion events of people that buy ICOs off of Facebook. So
you already have the custom audiences, like you're ready to churn from one to another.
Yep.
Yeah.
It was good. And then so that one I eventually shut down just because I had a business partner. It didn't work out too well. So I'd call that a failed one, where now my past 3 ventures, I won't have a business partner. I'm happy to have founding team members that have equity in the company. And it's not like an ego thing. It's like I just trust myself tremendously. And like culture pillar number 1 in all my companies is no ego amigo. So like it's not like
you don't want to put yourself in a bad position. I'm the sort of the same way. I had founders in the first few companies, and now I'm like, I'll bring on somebody or hire somebody like, your mid-30s CEO, but it's like you don't want to bring on, if you know how you kind of operate, it's not even an ego thing. It's just like a communication thing, right?
100%. Yeah, it's that's the formula I found best. Like shout out to Chase Messeni and Ken Palm, my CTO and CMO at Heatmap. I would not be a fraction of what it is right now without them. But team is absolutely everything. Like especially in the agency space, you're literally selling your team, your people. So Jordan Ross, really awesome, owns 8-figure agency. And I worked with him about 9 months before I sold splittesting.com, my largest agency. And he told me you should be always canvassing harder for talent than you are for clients. Because the better your team is, the more electric it is, and the more in the universe it just works. That like
you got to have that magnetism. Like if you don't have it in your company, it will never get to any sort of sustainable real place. It is. I get what you're saying there. That's kind of like a gist that you have to be involved in to kind of understand.
100%. And then the last one that happened before Heatmap was I pivoted my agency. I just took the same entity, but I started like Fun Store and Geico. I begged them. I was doing SEO. There's this one blog post that it was like I grew up in Long Island, so it was Nassau County Car Insurance was the blog post I wanted to rank this damn thing for.
Yeah.
And I was working on it for 3-4 months. It went from like 9, 8, like 6, 7, 6, 5, and we were stuck at that 4. And all the traffic comes from being number 2.
Yeah.
So 2 or 1 or get a lot of traffic. So I begged them. I was like, any level of security clearance, I just need code access to this one blog post. I'll sign anything you want, any whatever. Took 2 months, and then they gave it to me. I got Google Optimize at the time, which was the free split testing tool. I literally split tested the headline and I ranked number 1 in 2 days. So I was like, wow, okay, there's something to this whole split testing thing. So
that's what sort of got you hooked on the split testing idea in general. Okay.
Yeah, you know.
I'm noticing a trend here.
And then back in the day, the reason like drop shipping, everyone's competing with the same product with the same ad inventory. So the only way to win is by having number 1, better ad creatives, or number 2, a better landing page or website that you're sending it to. So I was focused on the landing page as well. I watched a lot of Ezra Firestone's early content of like, how to use heat maps and effective landing pages and all that type of stuff. Then eventually moved on to be able to make that effectively. So yeah, I split tested headlines back in the days in Zipify, and I was just always optimizing the website a little bit more than anyone else around me was. And I believe I was the first in the world to create like split testing as a service. I don't think anyone like productized that. So that was about like 7-8 years ago from now. That's when I started splittesting.com, slowly let go of my $50K a month contracts. I went super broke 1 year and then super not broke the next year. And it just continued. Had a multi-figure exit about 1.5 years ago. So like early last year, I was already building heat maps saying, I can automate. So when I started Heatmap, like the code for it, I wasn't even like planning on selling the agency. I was like, sweet, let's make a whole
code with the agency and the software and all this stuff. And then all of a sudden, like a couple of people reached out like, hey, are you looking to sell your agency? I'm like, I'll take an offer. And then when the numbers, I was like, wowzers, that's a big number. So yeah, I took a look into it, and I always recommend people, like, if you have an option to sell your company, don't be bashful. Be super pragmatic. Like, if you have an option to like sell your company for like a solid amount of money, take it. Get to hang on to 10-20% and keep rocking with it. But like, hopefully that one's worth even more than the first buyout. But can't recommend.
I've interviewed like 100 people. Like this year, about 50 of them have sold companies, and I can't know what, like, all of them have expressed a similar sort of sentiment. So I think it's pretty universal in that regard. So I want to go back because you hit on a lot of things here, from the whole tennis pro, babysitting, hustle. The one thing that I'm interested in is that the first company that you had started in college, the e-com kind of hustle. Where did you the core skill sets for that? If you had to divide it up into like, hey, here are some like natural competencies I have, because I'm looking at entrepreneurs, right, trying to evaluate are they going to be a 8-figure exit 5-10 years down the line. Mm-hmm. What were the core skill sets that you just have internally? Like your dad trained you in entrepreneurship, think about things financially well. And then what were the things that you learned either through books, business influencers, courses? Like what was the internal skills, and then what were the external stuff that you had to learn for that first company?
Super interesting. So number one, I read the 4-Hour Work Week in freshman year. So I always had that
in the back of your head. Yeah.
I was like, okay, let me learn how to do this. And the second it is financially feasible, bring in someone else to do this.
Okay.
Let me crack the code, bring in someone else. Crack the code, bring in someone else. And I've become really good at delegating. And I never realized that was one of my competitive advantages, which is nonetheless just doing what I do and giving it to someone else.
Yeah.
But actually finding someone more talented than me. Because once I learned it, I knew how to ask the right questions. They're like, you're right about this and this, but totally wrong about this. I'm like, oh, heck yeah, you're hiring.
Yeah.
So like finding people more talented than me, that's number one, which is like team, like I said before, like your talent that you have around you, you need to build an outrageously talented team.
Yeah.
So having smart people around you is always like one of those things. Also going back really early, my dad's head of sales at Driscoll Foods. You know, I am privileged in that regard where
Okay.
he'd be zipping home from school and he'd be like on a giant sales call closing like, I don't know, 400 location deal. And I just like listened to how he spoke. And I always like was always a solid salesman, even though e-com doesn't require, you know, sales, like, you know, one-on-one sales. But I just always had that mentality and understood. And then number 3 was just like reading, where everyone told me to go onto YouTube and like read and like watch all the tutorial videos. But I actually went and found books that taught about digital marketing. And I went to fundamentals. So I read cash advertising really early on.
Classic book.
There's no YouTube video that tells you about cash advertising.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of like you read a book like Cash Advertising or like the Zig Ziglar sales book. I know sales is not you're more of a marketing guy, but you could sell. Yeah. But you don't get to where you're at, right, without having a strong sales set. Well, you already gave me the pitch for Brooklyn before, so I was like almost sold on that and Tribeca. But so that's an interesting thing. But it's like some of these entrepreneurial books, like Cash Advertising, whatever, you kind of have to like. That's like it's universal human psychology knowledge, and then you can apply it to whatever you can in business, whether it's teams or marketing or clients. So it's interesting that you had that in the beginning. What were some of in that first company? You obviously talked about the challenges of the second company and having to shut that down. In the first company, what challenges did you face or roadblocks where it's like, hey, I'm trying to get this off the ground, but this is preventing me from getting it off the ground?
So, it sounds like a weird one. The deeper I get into tech, there's like a formal term, which is called unknown unknowns. Meaning, like at Heatmap.com, we're creating net new technology that's never existed before. So we're like, we think this will take 3 months. We think that's reasonable, but we have no clue what's to come ahead. And in my book that's close to getting published, there's something called expert review. So like when you're starting really early on, you don't know what you don't know. And there's courses and there's like coaching programs and all that stuff. What I like to do, and I've done since I was literally 17, is I would find someone who is really good at Facebook ads. I'm like, can I give you $500 for 1 hour of your time? Good for them. And I'm like, tell me everything. I'd have a whole list of questions. And
you just get all the answers and write them down.
All the answers. Yeah. Forget the course. Forget everything else. Just go straight for it. Like find someone who's
that's interesting.
Creator, like expert, and just pay them $500 for maybe 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Like you can get out of them what you need and the right direction. You don't need a whole formal coaching program.
No.
I'm sorry, coaches out there. Like, you don't need all that stuff. Just like go straight for the jugular.
Yeah.
Exactly what you need. Just hire them for an hour.
Yeah.
Hire them for an hour again later. And like, instead of paying an agency like $5,000 a month, why not pay $500 every Monday and just you get now a $2,000 consulting gig just because you call them whatever. So I always brought on people that were more experienced than I was and just put the ego aside and just do what they say.
Yeah.
It always worked out.
Yeah, well, it's almost like, in the act of doing business, you have all these questions that kind of come up. And if you know somebody who's at the top of their game or farther along than you, and just get to mine that information out of them, you can kind of answer all these unanswered questions. And then, boom, that gets you over the next hump to like that next level or whatever.
Yep.
But I think you just got to be prepared for that. You know what I'm saying? It's like some people they don't know what questions to ask.
So that's actually something very interesting. In every job interview, I always ask, what is your superpower? If I asked you right now, what's your superpower in business? Don't give me a fluffy, like, I'm flexible, I can do anything, or like, I just get it done. Like, no matter how, like, the more specific, the better. What is your personal superpower?
Generating the teams and groups quickly. Building a company real quick. Building a group of people.
Broad. That's still way too broad.
Okay, generating teams.
Generating teams, still too broad.
Generating sales teams.
Cool.
Better.
There you go. That's what I would hire you for.
Nice.
So like, I just in like 15 seconds because you know yourself pretty well. Most people.
So you have to get people to that point. I guess that's it. So I guess switching gears a little bit with hiring. Obviously, you've hired a lot of people. You brought on this CEO for the company. How do you? That's for me personally in all my different companies. That's been a challenge. Is like getting the right people. Or you getting the right people at the right time and then like plugging them in the right way. What is like, do you have a heuristic? I mean, you just brought up that interview question, but like how do you get the right people?
Yeah. So,
especially the first few employees.
So There's a couple. So to my friendly agency and e-com founders out there.
Okay.
In an agency, you're the brain center, right? Like if you start an agency right now, you know all the tactics.
Right.
You
The team
hire
doesn't.
people under you. The team doesn't.
Yeah.
So I call you as like we would be the brain center.
Okay.
And then you hire like hands under you. You're like a glorified
Yeah.
sort of freelancer. But eventually, you need to suck it up and get someone who can be your second brain center that you can trust on phone calls and all that stuff. I would rather get to like 5, 10K a month in profit, sacrifice 100% of that profit to get a second brain center on. Because once you have a second brain center, piece of cake to go.
Right.
But now a little bit more fundamental to what you did. Incredible book, How to Make a Few $billion, just came out. Brad Jacobs, 7-time Decacorn founder. He's 7 for 7, making $10 billion companies. He's 7 for 7.
That's nuts.
It's all in like high frequency trading, waste management, like all the
the classic, the old school industries.
All the old school stuff that he's doing nowadays. Really cool. And he said there's 4 things that you need in an employee or in a potential hire. If they hit all 4 of these in a good way, I don't care how skilled or not or whatever they are, you have to give them the chance.
Okay.
Integrity.
Okay.
Intelligence. Intelligence gets rid of 90% of
That's huge. Yeah.
So it's integrity, intelligence, hunger, and collegiality, meaning like being a good colleague, like being good to work with and pleasant to work with.
Being pleasant, yeah.
Yeah. So if those 4 things you have in someone, like literally I have a 4-column thing that I write on a piece of paper and I literally rate them on those 4.
Yeah.
If they rate above a 9 on all 4 of those, because I also have some others, those 4, if someone hits those 4, hire them no matter what. They can learn quickly. Yeah. They can integrate quickly. They'll be a pleasure to work with. Like there's all these different things. But those 4 things, intelligence, integrity, collegiality, and hunger.
Okay. So I have a tough question for you regarding this, okay? So I'm somebody who's easily schmoozed, okay? So I can get fooled on a lot of these 4 points because just people, they read me and they know what to say to get me just based on my public persona, right? Yeah. Like they know that to say these certain things. I hear the things, even if I have a little cognitive dissonance, I usually get convinced. Do you have any foolproof way to test for any of those items or like a question that you could ask or something? Specifically, the biggest one being number 2, the intelligence factor, which I think is, I've had people propose do an IQ test. How do you get number 2?
I have 2 really cool ones.
Okay.
Number 1, 90. So let's say I hire you right now.
Sure.
90 days from now, what is the most likely reason why I would fire you?
What is the most likely reason why you would fire me?
Like, okay, so like we're 60, 90 days from now. What's the highest likelihood? Like what thing gives the highest likelihood of this not working out between you and the company?
For me, it's probably just following instructions. Yeah.
So if I was to hire you, not having clear enough instructions for you would probably not do it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So that's number way of saying a lot of people give the question like, what are you bad at? Or what are you not great at? I find the question is really awesome.
Why would you be fired? Okay.
It's like, it's in 90 days from now, what would make this not work out?
Right.
So they're thinking forward. They're also including their own faults and things they're not great at. And that just gives me all the answers I need usually. And number 2, well, this will be a fun one to give anyone.
Okay.
I'm going to put a 30-second timer on.
Okay.
Clock, 30-second timer. Ready? Go down to 0 and 30. I'll give you a full minute. I'm feeling generous.
Give me a minute. Give me a minute here.
Okay,
Come
ready?
on. Yeah. New York minute.
Name as many bears as possible. Go.
Polar bear, grizzly bear, black bear, brown bear. Alaskan bear.
Keep going.
Wyoming bear. Bear man.
Yeah.
Bear human hybrid.
Nice.
Bear monkey.
Mm-hmm.
Bear mountain.
Bear fur.
Mm-hmm.
Bear.
20 seconds.
Bear. But you gotta give me 5. You gotta give me 5 more seconds because I was fixing the stream there. But bear. New York bear.
Mm-hmm.
Greenwich Village bear. That's a different type of bear. Okay.
Cool, sweet. You're at 5 seconds.
Okay.
I'll do it. So that question right there.
It shows how much you can come up with. I get what you're saying. I could see somebody getting really tripped up on that.
Jelly
Yeah.
bears, right? So it's like you went straight
That's
for
genius.
it, so I knew a lot of
Okay.
things about you right away. So
Yeah.
when I'm looking for creatives, like I've heard like unbearable before. Like I've heard some like wild stretch of the imagination for bear.
Yeah.
I can't remember where I got that, to be honest, but I started adopting it and using it, and it's freaking awesome. So like,
No,
to
but
be honest,
somebody
that
who
was
is unintelligent would be overloaded by the you know what I'm saying? Like when you told me bear, I immediately thought of like I have the encyclopedia of information in my head of all the types of bears that
like
there are.
Berenstain bears.
Yeah. Or like the actual species of bears. So I gave you the 4 species of bears right away. So I had the game plan right away. Whereas I feel like, some people, some bad hires that I've had in the past, you give them that question and it's going to be, you're immediately going to get some tells that if you interviewed somebody who, like you, or somebody who I know is already in super high IQ, it would be a different, so that's a super interesting.
The other thing I love about it, other than just
it's going to transform my hiring here.
I hope so.
Yeah.
That's my goal. I hope everyone here hires better people.
What about the other or you can say something, but I'm curious about the other characteristics if you have another 4. Other 3.
So those 4 things, the question about 90 days from now, bears, the reason I love that bear question so much is it shows me if someone's a creative thinker. I put you on a timer. That's pressure. That's artificial pressure. Do you work well under pressure? I can tell you actually work well under a lot of pressure because literally within the first 2 seconds you already gave me a bear.
Yeah.
So that's another thing as well. You can see how
get stumped.
people get.
Yeah.
You can see if they're aggressive, if they're like, ooh, this one. I can see you're a little competitive too, just based on how you gave those answers in a good way. That's like competition, right? So like I can read anyone off the street if I give them a minute and ask them to name as many bears as possible. So it's like little things to pick up like that. But then ultimately, like your pillar hires, I force them to live with me for 24 hours.
In what sense?
In an Airbnb. Like not separate rooms. Well, separate rooms, of course. But
that's also genius, dude.
Yeah. So it's like I force them. Usually, so if it's CEO, it's 48 hours.
Yeah.
I get to see everything about them. Where they call their kids. Does their wife call them inbound? If they have husband, wife, if they're single, their friends call. At what point do they just like tune out? Do they like at like 6 p.m. like, hey Dylan, my brain is fried. Do they like want to just hang out? Do I enjoy being with them? Are they like all business and that's cool? So it's like I find out everything about a person. Like the first 12 hours they can put on a front. After that, they're like, dude, I'm exhausted. Like I don't really want to drink. I don't want anything.
That's
like,
so genius.
You know, so that's the way that I'm.
That's so genius.
Hiring CEOs.
I can't even believe that. That's like incredible. Now I'm just thinking about it. It's like you
the
could.
Potential CEOs are like.
There's no way you could fake 24 hours in an Airbnb. You know?
They're like, hey, dude, like I have a family. Like, is there a chance we could do this near me? I'm like, yeah, we'll do it like literally 5 minutes from your house.
We'll do it at your house.
Yeah. No, like not at their house.
No, you got to do it.
So it's like
you have to see them out of their normal zone. Okay.
And I've had potential CEOs say no to that, but then like, cool, it's not a fit.
Do you look at the past career or the references? Do you take any information from that?
What I care most about is how whatever company they've most recently left, how did they leave?
Was it on good or bad terms? Okay.
Is it on good or bad terms?
Yeah.
What was the reason? Was the company going under? Do they have reviews? And the other thing I do as well is I go on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
I message them directly without telling them. Because if I say, give me 2 references, they're going to like prep up the person.
Yeah, you got to hit them right away.
I just literally like, either pick up the phone and call or see if someone knows. Like, like usually in my network, I can track someone down somewhere.
Yeah.
But I always try to find references that are not direct intros from them. And I recommend, like, if you're going to hire a marketing agency or something like that, find someone on their website, literally reach out to them. Like, most of them are going to be like, no, they suck.
Yeah, of course.
Like, I always feel like references are mission critical all the time, but they cannot be direct references. Like, direct
of course
studies,
not.
Direct video testimonials. I mean, on my old agency website, I have testimonials from people in videos that I haven't spoken to in 3-4 years.
Right, or they did it after like a week of working for you or something. Yeah, you got to do it right away. So that
sweet spot's 45 days.
Yeah, 45 days. So that's interesting. Yeah, it's kind of like I feel like most people wouldn't do. That's like a killer mentality. Do you know what I'm saying? Is that most people are not going to go through, and I'm looking even myself as just like most people are not going to go through that.
Yeah.
But you really need if you're like, hey, I want to bake a major company and I want to beat out all these other people and I want to survive in the long term. Well, your bread and butter, your currency is the team, and if the team is trash, even if you were the biggest genius of all time, you could not get anywhere. Like you couldn't get a fraction of the place that you could get to with the right team.
I would rather a trash product and a great team.
Oh yeah,
Instead
you do miles more with that.
Yeah, because the thing is, a good team will fix your product and then find out what to sell and then go sell it.
Right.
So it's like, if you have a good team, you're unstoppable. And the one thing that I'll say, I don't flex. I've sold a bunch of companies. I have a bunch of cool achievements. My one flex that
What's the flex?
I have a 100% employee retention since I was 17. I fire a lot of people, don't get me wrong on that. But I've never, since I was 17, had a single person voluntarily leave any of my companies across all 8 of them.
Yeah.
That is my number one biggest asset that I have.
I mean, that's truly, I think that's a really, you know what I'm saying? Just being in the biz, that's a very, it's a real flex there.
Yeah. They're not your family. They're not like, if someone ever says like, oh, we're like a family here, I'm like, piss off. Like, we're really cordial to each other. We're all pretty like slightly competitive. We all want to win, not against each other, but against the other companies. Like having a culture of excellence.
Do you get friends with the team? Drinks, pizza party. Do you do that? Do you do that social?
I've never had an in-person team before.
Okay.
But like, so for example, I have a team of over 30 people in Ghana and Nigeria.
But do you do on-sites with like the American?
On-sites frequently, but I fly out there for respect. To nod my head, look.
You got to do that.
Do I want to get on an 8-hour flight? No. And like sit there inside of a box of 4 walls for 23 and a half hours a day for 2 weeks? No. But do they see me grind?
You got to show the troops that you can grind harder than that. That's like
they won't respect a general.
No way. You got to be on the front of the charge. Yeah. That's like any time that I'm like have like doubts. Oh, the team is not doing this, and you just get in the front of the lines and take the fire. But have you fired people?
Good one as well. Oh, how do I fire?
Yeah. Well, that's what I'm saying. Is when this hiring heuristic or system goes wrong, how do you execute the fire, or how do you know that someone is fireable? Outside of like the fireable offenses, like whipping your pulling your pants down in the office.
I'll go slight hippie for a second and then bring this back. I promise it's worth it. So I lived on a commune for a couple of years.
You were saying that.
Human soul. Super deep. Plant medicine, everything you can imagine, exactly as advertised. I've created this fundamental belief, be like really hot button topic. I believe that humans are born with a good or bad soul, which is a very hot one to say. I could be totally wrong, but I'm very happy living my life that way, because if I feel someone has a bad soul, it's not their person, your third dimensional container, your physical body you're born with, then their soul. Let's load it back up there, If I feel someone has a good soul, they can do, people with a good soul can do bad things, people with a bad soul can do bad things.
Yeah.
So, but if I feel like someone has a bad soul, immediately out of my life. Like,
well, is that a Jewish thing though?
No, completely nothing related to Judaism.
Okay.
It wasn't.
It's an interesting. I had the partner of my last one was an Orthodox Jew, and he was a cut complete. As soon as you know somebody's bad, or they do something like against your whatever belief system, they're gone. And I've never been able to do that personally, but I look at it from a business perspective, and I see all my Jewish friends who have that kind of practice, whatever that's instilled in them, and they do a lot better in business.
It's completely unrelated to Judaism. I have my own practice.
Sure.
I'm not a super heavy.
But so how do you know about the soul? How do you read this?
It's a feeling. That's a whole time for another one. But like, if you think that someone might be a bad person, cut them out. Like, that's a common thing, to like do a lot. It's really hard because like someone's salary is their livelihood. They might have kids, and I've met their kids before, and I feel like I may know.
I've had that too.
Someone just had a kid on my team about 2 months ago, and last month I had to fire them because they were doing really poorly.
Yeah.
the other thing, the thing that I channel.
How do you know that? That's what I'm getting at, is how do you, because I've had this situation, okay, where I have somebody with kids, whatever, and I'm like, I have a feeling, okay, and I continuously have to play whack-a-mole with that feeling to like manage them. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, because I don't want to fire.
Why put yourself through that?
Yeah.
Just let go. Just literally cut it. Just do it. Like,
Yeah.
you know, Nike style. Like, just do it.
But
Like,
what do you
literally
need?
let
Is
go.
there's not? It's just it's totally a feel thing. There's not some type of quality, you know, some type of thing that you look at.
Shout out to Marsha Ander, my mom. She went back to school at like 50 something to be an executive coach. She's an entrepreneur herself, and there's something called the 360 method. If you're trying to evaluate someone,
Okay.
Ask someone who is above them in the org, and ask someone who is below them in the org.
If it aligns.
And if it aligns, either they might be being too nice, but it's really rare. You get someone, you know, in between two levels on the org structure. And also it could be someone next to them and someone below them, or someone next to them, someone above them. So when I run the 360, there's a really specific way, one way that I live my life. I speak about this book every time I do a podcast, Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss, FBI hostage negotiator, best thing in the world. If you ask questions that start with what and how, if I ask you, dude, why are you wearing that shirt right now? You get like a little defensive, right? You're like, well, I explain to this dude why I'm wearing this shirt. But if I said, hey, what made you choose that shirt today? You're like, oh, honestly, like, cool brand, like, I love this thing right here. It actually pulls out positivity out of you. So when you ask questions of what and how, it's like, hey, how do you feel about this person? Like, what do you think they've been doing? Like, how do you think they've been performing lately?
And you could hear them kind of checking their response. I've done that before. And they're like, yeah, well, they're like,
Yep,
you could hear them like back out of it a little bit, right? Like the response is bad, but they're trying to come up with a way to nicely say it.
Oh crap! Why are you asking me this right now, Dylan? I'm like,
yeah, I think, you know, she's, you know, you can tell.
Yeah.
And then if they have the same feel as you, okay, that's where you get that bad soul feeling, where the alignment, like if 5 people are standing in the circle and we all have a bad feel.
You want to know what's funny?
It's bad.
I've actually fired a manager before because they were lying to me about performance of their person under. A lot of people would say, oh, that's like, you know, like someone sticking up for their internal tribe. No. Yes, I'm the founder. Yes, I'm the owner. But we're in the same tribe. It's not like I'm the person
Oh, yeah,
over
dude.
here.
No, I get what you're saying.
You know, like we are all a tribe. I am one person of this tribe. Doesn't matter where in an org chart. I could give less of a crap. So it's like, if you're going to lie to me, a fellow team member, then I don't care how good you are. Like, there's no room for that. I would rather a team of mediocrely talented people that have integrity, hunger, you know, all of those things that I mentioned before. I'd rather that any day of the week.
That's an interesting one too, where if I've seen that too, where people like lie to cover the people who are like not doing stuff beneath them, but it's like, yeah, dude, like your ride or die is the people that are there when you sell the company. Like they're not going to do that. That's a person that's going to stab you in the back.
Yeah.
Whenever they get the chance.
Another big one as well. I do self-evaluation and I do company evaluation once a month. I have an anonymous Google form. Everyone is anonymous. I don't even know what department you work for. I fill out one myself. I put it into ChatGPT. Everyone gets all the responses. And then another really hot topic one here.
Yeah.
I do open book accounting. So every single person in the company
you show them the books
access to every single thing. They know how much each person is paid. Some people like fight about it, like, hey, like, why are they getting paid more for me? I'm like, well, they have 4 more years of experience than you do at this. They're like, gotcha. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
If the company's doing really well, they might ask for a raise. If the company's not doing so well, they don't ask for a raise. You know, if they're like, hey, this client's been with us for a while, I'm looking at our P&L. So it's like, there's a lot of downsides. And like, I was talking with the CEO of a really well-known company yesterday. I went to their offices in New York. And he was like, Dylan, that's a beautiful thing. It breaks at 400 employees.
Yeah.
And I'm like, haven't been there yet. The most I've had is 120 employees at a time. And it worked at that point as well. But like right now I'm back at like 50-something employees right now at Heatmap. They're like, yeah, 50 is beautiful. Everyone knows each other. Like, you know if they have kids or not. There's going to be soon when you don't even have control or know who's hired or fired. Like, you know,
just happens.
A certain level. I'm like, but I do believe, like in my heart, top down, there just isn't a company that's made that work yet. I believe my companies might be the first ones to break that. Maybe they're right. All love to people who are older. My dad always told me nothing replaces experience, but like, I don't know. I think I could do it.
Yeah. That's a very interesting one and super controversial too. But
Yeah.
I can see what you're, because kind of like, I don't know, there's like a universal truth that kind of resonates among the people in the companies, and so I think that you're leading kind of with an atmosphere of like, hey, we're open about everything, and then like people can see the direct route to improvement, and the route to improvement is improving the financials of the company in some way. It's not like brown nosing or.
So I have a fun one for you. What is the job of a CEO?
The job of a CEO is to keep the organization running smoothly, whether that means leading people or doing certain tasks.
I'd say that's a very early stage answer.
Yeah.
Give me a bigger one.
Ensure that everybody's having success in your company.
That works.
That's better. Yeah.
So until I heard this quote about 6 months ago, that used to be my answer. I heard recently the CEO's job is to not run out of money.
Yeah.
And that blew my mind because I'm like, everyone's like, oh,
that's how the business stays alive. Yeah, exactly. So it's like
the longest wins. So it's like
you have to be the lone survivor.
Exactly.
Yeah.
If you're the lone survivor and you last for so long and you stay at
then
it,
you can be CEO. Yeah.
You can't help but be a multi-bajillion company.
Yeah.
It's impossible not to.
Yeah. Yeah, well, it's like that stat. Like most businesses fold in 5 years, so it's like if you're the last one standing, you're the one with the business that remains. Do you know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
So that's how the best CEOs, I guess, they've just been around the longest.
Oh, another thing, by the way, that like asking on the journey. There's a book, How to Be a Capitalist Without Any Capital, by Nathan Lapka. Really good YouTube follow. He does incredible.
He's
interviews.
Great. Yeah.
But I did my first deal. So you asked me about Twitter before. Like I built a really nice Twitter following. It's changed my life. I've only been tweeting for like a year and a half.
Yeah.
And I don't even take it like aggressive or fast. And I've grown a pretty large audience and built splitdesk.com all off the back of inbound Twitter. I never did any sales, had a salesman, outbound, anything. I bought a business for $0 down.
Okay.
They had $180,000 of debt on the company, personally guaranteed. But they also had $120,000 of inventory in their warehouse. So I did. All the money's there. They're like, oh, thank God. But if you think about it, there's only $60,000 missing. So I pretty much bought it for $60,000. What did I do the second day I owned it? Called up all the people that the money was owed to. I'm like, hey, my name's Dylan. I just acquired it. I now have a personal guarantee on this. Are you comfortable changing around the terms? They're like, oh my God, we wrote this off as we never get this loan back. Yeah, of course, I'm happy to. And they gave it to me in 3-year loans instead of month to month. Yeah, because they were going to guarantee get their money back. I was like, hey guys, like for this to work. And
that's crazy leverage
there. For the first
there.
3 months, all I did was just run the email list. And it paid off the debt.
Yeah.
So I was like, how come these guys haven't done this before? So I bought a split testing platform, sold it. I bought a landing page builder, sold it. I exclusively don't reveal the name of those. Like, I don't let everyone know all the companies.
The companies you've acquired.
So, it's like I love buying and selling companies.
Yeah.
I can't wait till Heatmap is at the size where I can just buy the heck and flip companies.
Yeah. That's like one of the most exciting things. Yeah, I think the M&A space. I talked to a guy, Eric Sue. He's like a Twitter lawyer. Yeah. Another cool guy.
Cool.
What
up, Eric?
Yeah. What up, Eric? Have you ever thought about like a brick and mortar business or?
I was actually looking at laundromats, the ROI, a lot of that type of stuff about 6 months ago.
Right.
Just because I have an exit. I have 95% of my net worth in, other than my like equity in companies, almost all my net worth, like liquid, is just in rolling 1 month treasury bonds, making 5% on the cash, but like I get it at any point.
Okay.
Like,
you can get it back.
I can get back a quarter of my net worth.
Yeah.
And if the U.S. government goes down,
you're basically liquid. Yeah, but like that's not going to happen. Or if it does happen, we're all fucked anyway. So it's like, yeah.
If I want to buy a house, it's no more than 3 weeks for me to have any down payment I want.
Nice.
So that's what I do. That's how I've always done it. yeah, I should diversify into Bitcoin and gold and whatever the heck, like safe investments. Like I'm a vicious entrepreneur, savage entrepreneur, really high risk. But once it comes to my money, my personal money that goes to my personal account, I'm a baby, big fat baby.
Yeah.
So the reason why I brought that up, just like I have money really simply. The other thing too that I hate is so many people talk about like big numbers, top line, all that stuff, but like post-tax, how much do you got?
Right.
Like, what's that profit look like? You know, like great, you're spitting out $300,000 a month of profit. I live in New York. It's actually $150,000. So tax is another thing where not a lot of people talk about taxes because it doesn't make sense to optimize your taxes unless you're making a certain amount of money.
Well, at one point that you get there is just interesting that brought up was, you know, having like just being liquid personally and having like a lot of cash is an underrated thing for being an entrepreneur because it doesn't allow you to do those like that leverage move with that business you wouldn't have been able to do if you didn't have a good personal, you know. So it's kind of like you got to have that. Your business is doing well, yes, but you got to take some money out of the business and drop it in. You know, even if you're not a career person, like I think you're the same. We're the same age. Never had a job or anything like that. And it's like, you know, do you want to do, you know, like you're talking about the salary that you're getting now with your company's fundraise, like, but you kind of have to do that even if you don't want to. If you want to be an all-in type person, you know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah, So fun fact, I put 1.2 million of post-tax money into Heatmap.com before I even ever raised a nickel. I thought 1.2 would do it, but it didn't.
Yeah, dude, it's kind of like, yeah, dude, like you probably watched that just, you know.
It was like 1 month 30, the next month 40, next month 50, next month 70, 80, 90, and then like bring on a team and more people and more people.
Okay, so that's an interesting question because we talk about the bootstrap versus fundraise situation all the time.
So I tried bootstrapping. The co-founder of Asana said, Dylan, Trello beat me out just a little bit. I wish that I'd raised money earlier. I was stubborn.
Did they not raise money, Asana?
They did later.
Got it. Okay. Interesting. Yeah. It's like, I don't know. Yeah, that feeling when you have like all the employees, you have like 100,000 whatever expenses a month. Like you're watching the money go, and it's like it's not the same money as the investor money. Do you know what I'm saying? It's like it's a different. I don't know. It's a different type, I guess.
The main reason that he recommended to raise money is like if it's your own money, you're going to make 6 to 12 month decisions, not 6 to 12 years.
Yeah.
And I'm like that. And literally the next day I called a couple friends to go raise money.
Well, so having raised now, how do you look at like those type of decisions? Like how much you're going to spend or budgeting? Like are you really looking at it on a 5-10 year horizon?
Yeah. So for
are you still like, I'm not paying this guy I'm not paying this crazy overpriced consultant $10,000 a month, you know?
No, I'm the consultant at a lot of this. But I hire, so I'm a big fan of like you'll hear me talking about hiring all the time. Someone really excited to announce the head of agency partnerships from Klaviyo is now.
Oh wow! Okay.
By the time this comes out, he's like, like I'm looking for between, X and Y.
Yeah.
And I was like, all right, let me negotiate for you. I'll pay you Y. Come over. So I like treat.
You just made the power move and just boom.
Yeah.
He's coming over.
They're like, I'm looking for like 190, 210. Those aren't the exact numbers, but like, looking for 190, 210. I'm like, cool, 210, done.
Yeah.
So like, I want them taken care of. Like they're like negotiating. I'm like, I'm not going to negotiate with you. You get that amount, you're going to work your face off.
Yeah.
So it's like get really talented people, pay them more, pay them at market, if not slightly above market, and then they work super hard.
I mean, if you have that certainty that they're going to work hard, like there's some people, if you give them like the high number, you have the certainty to work hard, it's like so much more valuable than skimping them and then losing that certainty that they're going to work hard.
Another thing that I'm a huge fan of, so I think I pioneered something with my agency, which is I had a tipping system.
Okay.
For an agency. I don't know, I'm sure you've probably never heard of it before.
Clients can tip you?
Clients can tip my
the manager. Okay, the account manager.
So let's say like you have, so I never had account managers, only senior CROs and junior CROs.
They were marketing people, not client people. Yeah.
Yeah. So I always told people, like I always told my clients in the agency, I'm like, look, if one of my team members are doing well, you are not required by any means, but you are allowed to tip them. And I will literally show you my, amount. You can't do it directly, like please do it through me. That's my only ask. But if someone does a really good job, it's like a huge split test that like makes you a frick ton of money.
Yeah.
Like, throw them $500. they would love that. They're going to work harder for you. Be selfish with my people.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm going to take $0 of that. I want that straight there. If you tip, then I don't need to charge more and I don't need to hire more and that kind of thing. And they'll take care of you. They're going to love you. Like, it'll be as if they work for you and they're going to spend more time with you. Be selfish over my own.
You never have the issue where the client hires like I've had a bunch of situations where client hires the marketing person underneath you.
100% employee retention.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So no pulse. Well, I guess in that setup, they're kind of happy anyway, so it's like they wouldn't do it.
It's like, we have pod structures of like 6 team members that would service
per account.
4 to 5 accounts.
Okay.
Each. Those pods, they were best friends with each other. They would literally, not even ask me for company dollar. They would fly out to each other's weddings and hang out and go on vacations together without a dollar. You know, it's like really high-performing people want to be with other high-performing people. And, like, I just give people a home.
Yeah,
high-performing people.
Yeah, they're addicted to the culture, to they're addicted to the improvement. Yeah, or the feeling that they can improve. Whereas you get in some environments, and this is the killer for any entrepreneurs, like when you're in an environment where you don't feel that opportunity, where you can't improve because everybody around you is, a bad soul. But anyway, Dylan, we've done a lot of talking. Nothing about CRO, which is interesting with you being like the CRO expert. I plugged basically every other topic. But any kind of like parting, like you're talking about like Hormozy, other guys investing in your companies. Who do you follow? Like who at this point in your entrepreneurial career, who are you taking notes from, if anyone?
So notes as dollar bills or notes as
notes as advice and like reading, and you're talking about how reading has been big for you.
So reading is huge. This is my parting counsel, and I use that word very intentionally.
Okay.
Opinion. There's a difference. Do you know the difference between opinion and counsel?
Yes.
So to those who don't know that, opinion is someone's thoughts and perspective on a matter that they don't have experience in. Counsel is an opinion or their
a qualified opinion
that they do have that experience hands-on.
Okay.
So everything that I've shared here today is counsel.
Right.
None of this is my opinion. I've done and seen, messed up, and did each of these things.
Sure.
So I look for counsel from everyone who I can take counsel from.
Okay.
I don't look for people's opinions. I look for people's counsel who can tell me very specifically. If I find someone who's a 30-year HR, I'm going to ask them to hear off about HR. I'm like the worst at HR. I got a freaking potty mouth. Like, yeah. I'm gonna sit there and ask them at like a Thanksgiving dinner for 30 minutes what to do. And like
about this situation. Yeah. Like, hey, this policy.
Yeah, exactly. This
your policy. Jewish holiday policy.
Yeah. On the Hanukkah bush.
Yeah. Exactly. How many days of Yom Kippur you take off? That's a big HR problem.
That's too funny.
It's one of the biggest HR. That's probably what I got to do in the next podcast. I get a 30-year HR person. What do you do about the different religious holidays?
That's a good one.
Yeah.
That's a good one. So on CRO, I just look for counsel. So whatever form, like bringing it all the way back to expert review, like I was telling you, like hiring that consultant.
Yeah.
I still do that all the time. But now I offer someone $5,000 for an hour. They're like, really? And then, like, they'll jump on a call with me for free after that.
They're in love with you after that. Yeah.
They're like, yo, this dude's, like, killing it. This guy's really hungry. So, like...
You just became number one in their circle of people.
They start to text me proactively, like, hey, how's it going? Like, how is everything since you paid me $5,000?
Yeah, they feel guilty about it. There's, like, a reciprocity thing where they have to do something for you.
I mean people who are billionaires. Like, I literally have some, billionaires in speed dial, and I'm like, hey, help, what do I do? Like, they're like, oh, dude, I'm so happy you called, man. Like, this thing. They're like, did you do that thing I told you last time? I'm like, oh, yeah, it worked.
And we did it. Yeah, you've given it back to them.
Because then they get, like, that culture of excellence. They get it, like, addicted and really excited that, like, they gave me a piece of advice.
That worked.
I implemented it. It worked. Company grew even more.
Yeah.
And now I'm talking to them again. And then again. And then again. And they're like, yo, can I buy this thing? So it's like, it's just really cool in that regard. Like, no ego amigo. Ask really good questions. That's my superpower.
Got it.
Like I asked you before, mine is I ask the best questions in the world. I've never met anyone who can ask such strong questions as I do.
Yeah. Cool.
So nothing about CRO. Go optimize your website. It's super important. It's way more important than ads.
Something you must do. Yeah.
You must do. Go follow all my other shit if you guys want to learn about CRO. That's all I post about.
And no vlogs coming. No vlogs. Some people are asking if we got some vlogs. Vlog squad coming soon. Or we're sticking with the Twitter.
I got CRO squad. I'll
Yeah.
send
Cool.
some spreadsheets.
And Dylan, you have best place to find you? Obviously, just Twitter or
Twitter, LinkedIn,
website.
Beeper, Carrier Pigeon.
Right.
No, honestly, if you guys can get me on Slack, that's probably the only way you can reach me. So
That's where you live.
if,
Yeah.
if you guys earn the love to get into my Slack, you can do that. But
Nice.
Other than that, yeah, just shoot me an email,
Cool.
Dylan@heatmap.com.
Cool.
I'm happy to help. I don't charge for consulting. I'm blessed at this point. So if I can help any of you guys at all, just shoot me an email.
Sweet.
And I am that motherfucker that will actually reply back.
Nice. Dylan, thanks so much for coming on, man. I got a lot of value out of this.
Pleasure.
Sounds good. Guys, the One Network.
Storm.